A new Middle East peace plan is rising, not a two-state solution, but a Jordan-Palestinian confederation backed by the U.S., Israel, and soon, possibly Saudi Arabia. Could this be the first draft of the covenant with many Daniel prophesied, the agreement that begins the final 7 years? Today on the Endtime Show, we break down how this new alliance could reshape Israel's borders, Jerusalem's future, and the prophetic timeline of the last days. Welcome to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. We're so happy you've joined us today. Some of you are OG viewers. You've been around for a while. I want to see who all out there is. Just put Jesus is my only source. I want to see who all knows what that means. I'm not going to say anything more than that. Just put in the chat, Jesus is my only source. Let me see. I'll see who all will jump on board with that and who's been around for a while. And while you're there, make sure you share this video. Give us a heart or a thumbs up. It goes a long way breaking through the algorithm. So be sure to comment, Jesus is my only source, and engage in every possible way there so we can better reach not just your friends and family, but around the globe. Doug, today we're talking about this.
Hang on just a second, because I want to say something, if we can, if this is okay. I guess it's going to have to be because I'm doing it right now. I just want to say this about only source, okay, because it's very important that people understand this. There are times when we have given only source away for free for a limited time to people to help them kind of understand what we teach, right? There are a lot of new people in the chat. There's a lot of people asking questions that if you would go to Only Source and begin to look at understanding the end time, as well as some of the other programs that we have, especially ones on salvation and things like that, it would answer a lot of your questions. And so I just want to say, if you've been gifted with Only Source by myself or Vince, who likes to do that a lot during Open Line on Friday, he'll do that. So if you're one of those people that have been gifted that, please go on there and start watching that, because it's going to answer a lot of the questions that are being asked in the chat, and then the chat goes crazy in one way or the other. You could learn so much, and that's what that's for. And since you've got it for a limited time, it's everything we've got. I mean, you could binge watch Only Source. So I'm not big on doing commercials. You guys know me. I usually don't do that. Vince does that. But I'm kind of really wanting to let people know, if you've been gifted with that, please take advantage of that, because you're going to learn so much. So, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but I did also mean to do that.
It was great.
Thanks.
I'm just thinking as you're talking that when I think I was a junior or senior in high school, I started for the second time working. Well, I never stopped working, but officially, where I actually got paid to work at Endtime, junior or senior in high school, and I worked in shipping. And back then, we had this. I'm gonna fail at the number, but it was something like 10 or 15 VHSs in this box that was like this wide.
Yeah.
And your individual VHS tape would slide into that box, and there was the whole set for Understanding the End Time Level 1. Back then there was Level 2 and Level 3 as well. Wow. But Level 1 was a big old
VHS.
box. I mean, it looked like one of those boom boxes you carried on your shoulder back in the day.
I can imagine.
Back then you had to take out a VHS, pop it in the VHS player, hit play, realize it wasn't rewound, take it out and put it in the rewinder.
Yeah.
Or you could rewind it in the VHS player, but according to the people I was around, that would ruin your VHS player, so you needed to use the rewinder.
Wow.
You remember those? We had a separate rewinder.
I remember, because at that time when you were probably doing that, I was working at Region 10 in the media department, and so I know all about the
tapes and
rewinders.
Such. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, I started out with 16 millimeter film.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I bet there's some the real End Time OGs. They still have those VHS
Probably
tapes.
So.
But then it went to DVDs, and then it was this big DVD set. And now, of course, the DVDs are still available.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's this big special coming that I'm not going to reveal yet, but huge special coming. That
I bet it has something to do with Christmas, huh?
It does have something to do. At least it's around that time. But we still have the DVD option for those, and even books that you can read. But man, the online streaming, right here on my phone, I could pull it up and I can play any of those lessons, plus so much more. I can pull up the magazine on Only Source. I can go watch The Little Things by John Little, and Joy Hour with Tom Lyman, and The Golden Report with Joel Golden, and on we could go. Old sermons from Irvin, and even some stuff from us, Doug. But literally thousands of hours of content right here on any device, computer, phone. It's on Amazon Fire, it's on Roku, it's on all the things. And so you need to be on Only Source. And Doug, you don't do commercials, so why are we even still talking about this? This was all your fault, Doug.
I know, I'm sorry.
For once, a commercial's not my fault.
I just felt like we needed to say that, so put it to good use.
There's this Jordan-Palestinian confederation.
Yes.
What in the world's that about? What is going on?
That's a great question, because this is like a new slant on an old problem. It's something new that they're proposing. I found this in the Jerusalem Post. Actually, I didn't find it. Actually, Dave in Israel sent it to me this morning, and I saw it, and I'm like, wow, this could actually work. And I mean, it's something that I think everybody could work with on this. So it's very interesting, and we broke it down. I think that the best thing for us to do is just to kind of go through it and break it down in the phases that they break it down in, and explain it to people, because I think people would see this could be the thing that we've been waiting for. So,
well, can I first ask what you mean when you say this could actually work? What is, like, work as in the Gaza conflict, or work as in the final 7 years peace treaty?
Yeah, work in the final 7-year peace treaty. I think that this would be doable for everyone, because it sounds like, I mean, I know there's going to be things they have to iron out and everything, but it sounds like it would be something feasible that everybody would agree on. As we get into it, you'll see it, and it's involving Jordan, which is interesting, because we don't talk a whole lot about Jordan, except for when we say Jordan will be one of those countries that will not be under the power of the Antichrist. It deliberately calls out Ammon, Jordan, Moab, and what's the third? I can never get those.
If you don't know,
Jordan.
I sure don't.
It's
know.
modern day Jordan. You guys know what I'm talking about that follow us, but it's in Daniel 11:41, where it talks about those, and that is modern day Jordan, will not be under the power of the Antichrist. And so it's interesting to have Jordan brought into this. And now I do have to say this, that this is a writer's piece. It's kind of an opinion piece, but this is something that is being talked about by the Jordanian government and Israel right now and the United States. So it's interesting, and I want to jump into it if no one has seen it yet, but it's called the Jordan-Palestinian Confederation, A Possible New Path Toward Peace, is the title of the article. And so after decades of failed peace efforts between Israel and the Palestinians, many experts now believe that the traditional two-state solution, get this, that's what we have talked about forever, the two-state solution, they're saying is creating a separate Israel and Palestinian states side by side is no longer realistic because of the fact that people are seeing what's happened when they've tried to coexist there. And even now the Israeli government is saying there's no way we can have a two-state solution, even though the world is trying to push this. That's why I say this might be the thing that works, because even though it says it's not a two-state solution, a side-by-side thing, listen to what this is unpacking. So instead, a new idea is gaining attention as the Jordan-Palestinian Confederation. So the basic idea is a proposal, Vince, to create two countries, Jordan and Palestine, that share some powers but remain independent. So you'll begin to see what we're talking about as this unfolds. Both states would keep their own governments, okay, and national identities. They would share foreign defense policies and cooperation closely on the security and international issues. So they'd cooperate in these things to try to, what this is doing is towing the line for the Palestinian people by eliminating Hamas, allowing the Palestinian people to govern themselves while their big brother over here, Jordan, is watching. The Palestinian state would include the West Bank minus the major Jewish settlements that are now in place. See how this is kind of like something that might be appealing to everybody? And they would also have Gaza. So they'd have Gaza, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. And they would have the West Bank, so still the areas we've been talking about, but the settlement areas would not be Palestinian controlled at this point. They're saying that the settlement areas would still be under Israeli control, so to speak. So you see how this could be a good thing so far. What we've unpacked right there, just in what we're saying, this may be a doable thing.
What are you saying would be under Israeli control?
Some of the settlements there, the major settlements that already exist.
Now, aren't we under the impression that the Palestinians would be over all of those?
That's what we've thought from the two-state solution that's been proposed. And, of course, we know that the Palestinian people will control the West Bank. They're going to have the West Bank because of what it says about let those who be in Judea flee. There's still going to be Jewish people living in settlements under a Jordanian rule, under a Palestinian rule with this Jordanian plan. But the major areas that we've worried about before would still remain, I believe, with Israel. We can look at more as we unpack this a little bit more. But yeah, that is what the article is saying, that the West Bank would not include some of these major settlements that have existed up to this point. So
it's kind of a step, I guess, in that direction.
Yeah, and see, it's not really eliminating a two-state solution. They're talking about a two-state solution. They're just not calling it that. Instead of saying a two-state solution, they're saying we're going to give Palestine their nation. They're going to have a nation next to Jordan, and we'll understand that a little bit more in a moment when we talk more about it. So this was kind of exciting as I looked at it today, because I'm going, wow, if this was part of the plan, it could work. And so there's other things that have happened today that we'll bring into this too that will be interesting as well. So anyway.
The other things like that we can talk about, or other things that, like the news, or like things that
No, I'm
happen
talking
behind
about the news.
scenes?
I'm not talking about the other stuff right now.
Nothing to do with 7210 or anything?
Nothing to do with that right now.
Okay.
Maybe in the future we'll talk
shout
about
out
that
to
more.
anyone that may know what that means, but I guess we can't talk about that today.
And there are
Doug's
a couple
telling me
people
no.
that know what that means.
All right, I guess
we'll wait though.
I'll withhold.
Carter may be one of them.
Well, last night actually, I was speaking to an end timer, and her and her husband, and she said, I always listen to the Endtime Show when I'm going to bed. I put my phone under my pillow and hit play.
Wow.
And I lay there and listen to it. I said, we're so boring, it'll help put you to sleep.
I know several people that do that, Vince.
So I told her I was going to mention it today. I didn't know how many people, maybe many are listening to us at night, right before they go to bed, to help them drift off into a deep sleep.
Maybe you're right.
So,
maybe we're so boring. But I like to think of that as learning by osmosis.
There we go.
I had friends that could lay their head down on their desk in history class back in high school and could fall asleep and actually ace the test that I failed by listening and taking very good notes. So anyway, some people learn like that. I know, you know who Jerry Presley is in Branson, Missouri?
Yeah.
He is a huge end timer. That's how he goes to sleep every night. He said, I turn you and Vince on. We'll turn Dave on. He said, I put it right here on my chest, and I fall asleep listening to you guys.
Well, for some of you out there, I hope you have a wonderful night of sleep.
Yeah.
As you listen to this
me
later
too.
on.
Shout out to Jerry, too. We love you, Jerry. So benefits for Jordan. Let's talk about this for a minute, because the Jordanian monarchy faces big challenges. It says most of its population, Vince, is already Palestinian anyway. That's what's interesting, because a lot of people say that's really where the Palestinians came from, is they came from Jordan, that they were never really part of the land. A lot of people try to say the Palestinians are the old Philistines from the Old Testament, and they always lived in Gaza. Other people say that's not true. They're Jordanian. I don't know for sure, but you look into history and you'll see a major part of the Palestinian people come from Jordan. Many Jordanians feared that the confederation could weaken or even overthrow their Hashemite, how do you say that? Hashemite?
Sounds good to me.
Hashemite monarchy. However, under the plan, Jordan's royal family would stay firmly in power with the constitutional guarantees and emergency powers for the king. So if something were to happen, the powers would all go back to the king of Jordan. In addition, strong security partnerships with Israel and the U.S. would help protect Jordan's stability. So, sounds like Israel is on board with this and the United States is on board with this, if they're being mentioned as stability partners here. We also know that Jordan has helped Israel. Remember, during the bombings and things with Iran, Jordan allowed Israel areas in their airspace to fly to intercept missiles and things that were coming into Israel. And also Jordan themselves led airstrikes to take those missiles down. Remember when we were talking about that? And we also, like I said, we know that Jordan won't be under the power of the Antichrist. So these are important things to think about. The other thing says that the benefits for the Palestinians. So we looked at the benefits for Jordan. Now the other side of the coin here are the benefits for the Palestinians, Vince.
Okay.
So the Palestinians would finally have their own independent state connected to a working government that belonged to Jordan.
Okay, is that not a two-state solution?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you have your own independent state if there's not two states?
That's what I'm saying, too. It sounds like that's what it is.
We're just going to call it something else. Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
And then that way maybe everybody will buy into it. So it's kind of like world government is now called global government.
Oh, yeah.
It makes it sound better.
And like global warming, climate change.
Climate change, yeah. So we'll just change it. We'll change the name a little bit and everybody will love it. So the other thing is, and this is kind of a good thing for the Palestinians, with them being connected to Jordan, they have a stronger economy because now they're linked into that, and a reliable military. So they have a fighting force that would be able to help them if they were attacked. Okay, so those are benefits. refugees, get this is a good thing for the refugees, could return to the new Palestinian state, but not to Israel, but they could also receive compensation for being misplaced. So they can go into the new Palestinian state, but not come into Israel. Okay, the Federation would also officially end the Israel-Palestinian conflict. So right there, you've got the Muslim nations coming together. If you remember, Vince, we talked about this whenever the situation was going on with Gaza, and Trump kind of called out the other Arab nations around there. And when he did that, it was almost like a challenge to them, because he said, maybe the United States will just come in and take over Gaza. And all of a sudden, that lit the fire underneath all these Muslim states that were like, oh, okay, we can't have that happen, and we gotta figure this out. I think maybe this was part of that, was to spur them, to get them to where they would take a little bit of ownership over this area too. And so here's Jordan saying, okay, we could step up and maybe do some of this. Remember when Trump even said, I believe that Egypt should take some of the refugees and Jordan should take refugees. It almost sounds like that's what's getting ready to happen, especially as we continue into this article.
I'm trying to understand this compensation thing. Refugees could return to the new Palestinian state, not to Israel.
Right.
Or they could stay in the Israel part and receive compensation.
Yeah. Probably from Qatar.
Oh, don't get me started.
I figured that's where you were going.
No,
with that,
I wasn't going there, but now you're making me think crazy things. But
yeah, they would be compensated. Basically, it's kind of like what happens in other places where refugees go. They get compensated, they get monies, and they start businesses, and so
Yeah, but say like some of Gaza becomes Israel.
Yeah,
you can either go to the new Palestinian area, or you could stay in that Gaza part where you were at and receive compensation.
That's what it appears the article's saying, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how to process. I need to think a little bit more before I comment live on the air about that.
Okay. Well, process away.
All right. It'll come up 3 minutes from now, probably.
There you go. Let's look at the benefits for Israel. I'll let you kind of take over there and explain some of these benefits for Israel, because that's really what we're looking at. The focus is what's going to happen with Israel. So benefits for Israel.
Well, also going into that, I'll wrap up the confederation we're talking about would end that Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So not only would it get us closer to that final 7 years that we talked about earlier, but it also would end that conflict.
Yes.
Which would resolve the Gaza things, at least for now.
Yeah, for now.
And do we know if this is a temporary confederation yet? Have we talked about that?
We do not know that, but I did tie in prophecy at the end of this through what we understand from prophecy. So we'll wrap some of that up in the bottom of it there.
Okay. So benefits to Israel. So Israel is going to be, at this point, they would supposedly gain, according to the proposal, they would gain a trustworthy and stable neighbor as opposed to missiles coming in.
Right.
Now they've had deals in the past where this was going to be the case and it didn't work. So why would anyone think this is going to work?
Well, because of the Jordanian influence now.
Okay.
See, and remember also the other big influence there is going to be Saudi Arabia, which we'll talk about that too. You teased it there in your tease today.
Okay.
But we're going to bring that into play here in a moment too. So.
All right. So during this transition period, Jordan would oversee military and intelligence matters, ensuring the Palestinian state remains demilitarized.
Yes.
So that's part of what they would do. And then Israel could still act against terrorism. So if a terrorist act occurred, obviously Israel could defend itself.
Yes.
And potentially strike somewhere, or however they respond is going to be how they respond, I suppose.
As long as they coordinate that with Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Jerusalem would stay Israel's capital, while Palestinians would have their capital nearby. What in the world does that mean?
Well,
because they don't have a capital right now.
Right.
Obviously,
at this point, they want East Jerusalem. The Palestinians want East Jerusalem to be their capital.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel has always said we can never separate Jerusalem. And we know ultimately that's what the Battle of Armageddon is going to be over, is the dividing of Jerusalem. And half of the city is going to fall at the Battle of Armageddon. So this right there kind of takes care of that problem for now. Where they would have probably their capital would be in Ramallah, which is a little bit bigger area. So that would probably be the Jordanian capital. I should have pulled a map up. I'm sorry, guys. I know y'all love maps, and I should have pulled one up today. But anyway, that's what one of the possibilities are.
Okay. Then the old city of Jerusalem would be jointly managed by Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the U.S.
Yeah, so that's kind of a kicker, because what have we said for years is that Jerusalem would have an international peacekeeping force over it of some kind, right, for the holy
But this
sites.
is old city of Jerusalem, so it's not all of Jerusalem.
Right.
Can we tell people what all the old city includes?
Yeah. Do you have that where you can tell them?
I have no idea what all it includes.
Yeah,
but is that the Temple Mount?
Yes.
Is that... Well, I know it's the Mount. Well, it's right outside of the Mount of Olives. I don't know if technically the Mount of Olives is part of Old City.
Yeah. City of David's the old city of Jerusalem. So all that was behind the gates, behind the walls of the city of David. All that's considered Old Jerusalem. So Temple Mount, yes. Mount of Olives, yes. The Golgotha is part of that. It's just outside the outer walls of the old city and the city of David. So all that area, because of the historical value to not only Israel, I mean mainly Israel, but to the world and believers, this would be placed under a joint management. So now you wouldn't just have the WAF that controlled the Temple Mount and policed it there. Now it would be policed by a force that had Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Palestine, Israel, and the U.S. And that's probably not all. I would imagine there'll be some other people that agree to do this, because we already know what Trump's proposed for Gaza, and we've talked about that. So I would imagine that countries that are involved in that would probably be involved with the peacekeeping area of Jerusalem. Which, by the way, I talked to Dave today on the phone, and they're on their way home right now. They're in the air coming home. Before they got on the flight tonight, he said this one of the first times ever they had the Temple Mount to themselves. They were the only group on the Temple Mount for an hour and a half, Vince. He said he got to just speak as much as he wanted to, take everybody to the different areas, talk about prophecy, do things that were unheard of. He said to Ito, the tour guide, said, Dave, this never happens. I have never been on Temple Mount where there's only been one group on the Temple Mount.
Why is that?
Well, because that place is buzzing all the time.
No, I mean, why did they have all that access?
He doesn't know. He has no idea. He just said there was a lot of firsts. They were the first group to go up into the Pilgrim's Road, which was, because of Ito's influence as well. Dave got to meet the original guy that found the Pool of Siloam, the original archaeologist that discovered the Pool of Siloam. He said, man, there was so many firsts. This was amazing. So pretty cool. So anyway, that is the benefits for each country involved. Okay, and remember the Peace to Prosperity plan that Trump talked about in the beginning before the Abraham Accords, Vince. It talked about how they would trade normalization with Israel for different things that would help improve their countries. So those are things that we're talking about. These are benefits that these countries are seeing. Now, Jordan and Israel have had a peace agreement for a very long time. After the 1967 war, they had a peace agreement in the 70s. I think, I can't remember exactly when that happened, but they've had a peace agreement for a while. Also, Egypt and Israel's had peace agreements for a while. They're not part of this Abraham Accord that was signed into, but they're going to be grouped in with that along with these other nations. And one of the nations today was, do you remember the name of that place? I can't remember.
I'm not going to be able to say it.
We'll come back after the break and tell everybody. It was just announced right before we went on the air. Kazakhstan.
There we go.
That's it, Kazakhstan, which is close to Russia.
All right. Well, I want to shout out to Paula real quick and King Mine Cola on YouTube. They gave us some super chats, so I'll talk more about that on the other side of the break. We'll be right back.
A reminder of the breaking news this hour. At least 22 people are reported to have died in a strike in Gaza.
The rise of Islam.
We're trying to bring answers for so many families desperately.
Is the Israel-Hamas-Iran conflict World War III? So let's talk about the four horsemen. What do these horses symbolize? These are the four spirits of the heavens which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. In the end time, the true people of God will not be weak, anemic, and defeated. These prophesied events are revealing we are quickly approaching the time of the Great Tribulation right now.
Now streaming on OnlySource and available to order at endtime.com/green. Go to endtime.com/green or call 800-ENDTIME.
What if you could understand Bible prophecy? Dave Robbins, the host of the Endtime Show's TV and radio programs, is holding a free prophecy conference near you. Gain peace and understanding about what the Bible says concerning end-time prophecy. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Dave will be in a location near you.
Welcome back to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. We're so happy you've joined us today. We are talking about this new peace deal that's brewing, a Jordan-Palestine peace plan and a confederation that they've put together, Doug, that the United States supports, Israel supports, and possibly Saudi Arabia supports.
Yeah.
And as we've looked through this, you've said that this could take us to that deal that leads us to the final 7 years. It's another push towards that prophecy that's coming to pass.
Yeah.
And so we've been looking at the benefits to Jordan, the benefits to the Palestinians, and the benefits to Israel. And right before the break, I was talking about the super chats on YouTube. I need to finish that.
Yeah.
So before we get into this map from the old city that the team was able to generate really quickly for us, which is also so helpful. Before we get to that, though, I want to quickly mention that for more than a year we've been battling with YouTube because they demonetized us, and it's not like we made a lot of money off of YouTube, and it's not even about just the money. You see ads on YouTube, and the channels that you're on when you see those ads get a little bit of money for that.
Right.
Well, in addition, so when they demonetize us, they cut all that off. But in addition to that, when you're demonetized, you lose out on some perks, some benefits to your account, which like your video being suggested in the up next column over there on the side, so we don't appear in front of as many people. We're suppressed. When people search for our content, sometimes that doesn't display when you're demonetized. And so it's a huge blow for us and our reach on YouTube. And we've been fighting with them, submitting forms, and they don't respond. So
right.
It's annoying. But we've been dealing with them for a little over a year now, and they won't communicate with us. They just said, your content's harmful for viewers. And we're like, what are you talking about? What is harmful for viewers? They won't give us examples, nothing.
It's called truth. It's harmful for viewers.
Yeah.
Too much truth.
And then I had heard, and so I'd go back in and try to reset this and try to request that to be removed, and it never would work. And then in many cases, I wouldn't even have the option to communicate. And I just went back in a few weeks ago, and there was the option like I hadn't had in so long, so I tried it. And then we got a notice, I think it was it last Friday?
Yeah, I believe
it was last Friday.
Yeah.
Got a notice that we're reinstated, we're monetized again. So now Obviously, you already are going to see ads on YouTube. We can't control all those ads, but now Endtime will receive some compensation from YouTube for that. And then there's also these options in the live chat only. You can't do this on a video that's not live, but in the live chat, you can do what's called a super chat, where you basically throw a little money in there, or I guess whatever amount you want. I've seen numbers all over the place. But you can put money in with your chat or with your comment, and your comment is highlighted in some way. So you can pick a sticker or whatever. So Jim, he just did a super chat, a $10 donation. So thankful for that, Jim. And then I mentioned before the break, Paula, she did a super chat sticker. Look at this. It looks like a snowman. I don't even know what that says, but or what that is. But
it's so tiny. Don't expect me to see it.
Oh well, Paula gave $19.99, and King Mind Cola gave $4.99, and so there's a lot of people engaging in the YouTube chat now, and they're able to do super chats and get their comment featured. So that's what that's about.
We're back. And better than ever.
We're back. Could we ever make it to the trending page? I don't know, but we shall see. We're going to do whatever we can to reach whoever we can with all the tools available. So we don't like how they restrict us still. Obviously, when we talk about certain things, they don't like it. But as long as we're able to go on here and reach people, we will do our best to do that with the tools that are available.
And the path that we're on right now, folks, trust me, you're going to want to stay tuned, because there are so many things happening right now in the world, and they are things that we have been talking about for years. Pastor Baxter talked about things for years, and they are beginning to come to pass. And you're going to want to understand that and be involved in that. Even though there's a lot of people that, they don't want to believe what we're saying. They want to believe somebody that says something totally opposite. That's okay, because at least if you're here, you're going to hear it. And eventually when you see it happen, you'll come back to understand, wait a second, that's what these guys over here said. So we try to back everything up with Scripture when we talk about that, where a lot of people do not do that. And so that is what we're going to, is Scripture, to help you understand things. And so many things that we've understood because of Scripture are now becoming they're coming to pass. So it's happening right now. These prophetic things are happening. So anyway, having said that, this is another one of those things that could be a prophetic event that we've been talking about. And what else were you going to hit before we hit that? You were going to show the map.
You're not talking about the YouTube chat, right? That's not a prophetic event.
No, I'm talking about what we're talking about today. Okay. This confederation.
Yes.
So you got the guys. They were able to pull up a map during a commercial break. That's how good our guys are.
They're so good.
So let's pull that map up. It shows you the old city, kind of gives you an idea of what we were talking about there and what's in that area. So if you've ever been to Israel, you'll know very well where the Muslim quarter is and the Jewish quarter is and Christian quarter. All those things are involved in that. And you see the gates, the original gates of the old city, the Dung Gate, the Damascus Gate, all those different gates. So you kind of see what we normally talk about and what we try to tell you. That Dung Gate is the west gate that faces the Mount of Olives. So that's that western gate that's been closed because of the prophecy that the Messiah would return and come through that gate. So they've sealed that up. A Turkish monk, I think, sealed that up, or a Turkish leader sealed that up. And then the Islamic faith has put a cemetery there to try to keep the Messiah from coming back. But as we know, when Jesus comes back and his feet touch the Mount of Olives, there's going to be a great earthquake there. It's going to open all that wide open. And Jesus is going to just walk right in. So going to be an amazing thing. But there you see the old city. So that's the parts where this coalition of forces from different nations would police that area. And that's where the holy sites are, so the Temple Mount and such. So that gives you a little bit better idea. So thank you, everyone involved in the map. What would you say? Rendering. There you go. Creation. There you go. All right. So the next thing, moving into this so that we can get this done today, because there's a lot still to cover, is the land swap plan. So this is where you raise your eyebrows a little bit, but listen to what they want to do there, Vince. It's interesting because it says that to make Gaza more livable and economically viable, a land swap could occur. Egypt, okay, that's why I mentioned Egypt in their peace agreement with Israel earlier. Egypt would give land next to Gaza, doubling or tripling the size of Gaza, okay? So they would be part of this Mediterranean Riviera. So if you think that there hasn't been some, of Trump's negotiations going on there with Egypt saying, look, if you guys give this and open this up, you're going to be part of this Gaza Strip that is going to be like a Riviera in the Mediterranean, and you're going to receive all these benefits because of this. So there's a big master plan going on here, and it's a deal, like a deal of the century for Egypt also. So Israel would give Egypt equal land along their border. So lands that Israel controls right now, they would let Egypt have some of that back, which is interesting. Then Palestine would then give Israel an equal amount of land in the West Bank. So that's why it mentioned that those settlements that are there, some of those settlements that are there right now, would be able to remain as Jewish settlements, because Gaza in good faith, or not Gaza, Palestine in good faith would give that back and say, okay, this is no longer disputed territory, okay? So you see how this is beginning to unfold there. It's very interesting. It says, this way no country loses land overall, but each country gains what it needs most: more room for Gaza, secure borders for Israel, and compensation for Egypt. So it sounds like a win-win, right?
It does seem that way.
All right, so this is very interesting, and that's why we're talking about it today, because, like I said, this could be what helps to bring that final 7-year agreement into play here. So I'm going to let you handle that next part, the steps toward implementing this. Why or what needs to be done to help implement this if it were to work?
Well, first of all, I'm thinking that to get this separation, this is one of the steps, is civil separation. You have people who are living in these areas where this land is. So let's say I'm assuming in all the land, someone lives there. So the land that Israel would give to Egypt, there's Israelis living there now.
I would think that there's probably something at that effect, or this is land that
it's not just
Israel
abandoned
got back.
land, surely.
No, I think it might be land that Israel got back because of this Gaza situation.
Or even Egypt would give land next to Gaza. So maybe you live in Egypt right now, and that's part of the land.
And this is going to be south. This is going to be south of Jerusalem. So this will be down in the southern part of Israel. So there would be, I would imagine there would be some things that are transitioned there, but we don't know for sure exactly how that's going to work yet. But if Israel's in talks and agreements in this, it must be something that they're willing to compensate for.
Yeah, so somehow they're going to have to do that. I'm just thinking, if you live there or have a business there, or you have some type of activity going on in that part of the country where they are getting ready to give up this land, especially the portion in the West Bank. That seems like would be the more populated area.
Right.
So
what is going on with your
I have
computer?
no idea. My computer just totally shut down.
Yeah, I'm sitting here watching Vince's computer just go blank.
Yeah, it's like I don't have the notes that you want me to go over.
I'll have to talk more about those steps that are being implemented.
But I can talk about this civil separation,
right?
Because I'm thinking for that to happen, you have to have people willing to shift dramatically in some cases. Of course, I have no idea who's there and who's not there. Yeah. But it seems like the West Bank area would be the biggest ones, because there are probably Palestinian people living there right now, and that land would go to Israel in order to make all this work.
And these could be military bases that are along those borders too, that they could just take, and back up from there. a little bit and give that. I don't know, Vince, exactly how that's going to work. Like I said, this is in the early stages, and there was no map with the article or anything like that, so I didn't get to visualize everything as I was putting this together today. And I had a lot of those questions too. Is, okay, so who loses their home? Because when they initially pulled out of Gaza, there were Jewish people that lost their homes. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how all this plays out. But it continues on and says Israel would transfer civil control of about 90% of the West Bank to the Palestinians, but keep military control for now, which is essential. So they would be able to let them have civil control, but they would be in control militarily. So something that you could think about is that Palestine would get to self-rule themselves a little bit more in those areas without hurting Israel's security.
All right, well, we're going to dive into this more on the other side of the break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Many people argue America is not mentioned in the prophecies of the Bible. But they will miss so much about the coming events that will happen in the end time if they don't get that understanding. What do these beasts symbolize? That's what we need to answer. Because if we can't understand what these beasts symbolize, there's no point in even studying this, right? If you don't believe that America is mentioned in the Bible, you're going to be stuck when it comes to figuring out all these prophecies. But once you understand this, America has a prophesied future. It's given to us in the Bible. And the America will not be part of the world government, but we're going to be protecting Israel against the world government all the way to the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Now streaming on OnlySource and available to order at endtime.com/America. Go to endtime.com/America or call 1-800-ENDTIME.
Welcome back to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. Don't forget, we need your help. Share this video, share this podcast, however you are listening to the show. If you're watching on television or listening on the radio, call up a friend. Tell them to tune in right now. Every way that you can help share this message goes a long way in helping out. So do that right now. Of course, make sure you're engaging in the chat if you're watching online. Doug, right before the break, we were talking about civil separation in the West Bank. So somehow they have to give up control. People that are currently there, whatever the case may be, they have to figure out how to make that transition. Of course, that would be part of why if some people decide they don't want to move out, they could elect to receive compensation to stay where they're at.
Yeah.
Some of these folks, I imagine, have lived there for a long time, maybe their whole life, or the home has been in their family or whatever the case. I don't know how all that works, but right now this is just a proposal. Yeah. It's not official.
Right.
But who all agrees on this? Israel, the United States, Jordan, and the Palestinians agree on this?
We haven't heard that they agree on it.
Okay.
This is going to be part of that proposal.
Gotcha.
But it's a win situation for the Palestinians. But they've had situations that seem like a winning proposition for them before, and they've turned it down. Yeah. And so we'll have to wait and see what happens here. But I believe that at the pivotal point in history that we're at right now, and with everything else going on, Vince, I see this as a very big possibility of moving forward with this and making something work. So
okay.
We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
So now it kind of gets in, that seems challenging enough, but then the political changes that would be needed. Yeah. Israel would need a new government open to negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, my, shall I say, my Q brain starts going, the portion of my brain that has Q information in it starts going, I start getting a little tinfoil hat look mm-hmm. on my when I start reading that. A new government in Israel.
Yeah, you hear things like, we're saving Israel for last, and, that kind of thing. So.
But a new government in Israel... Yeah. That doesn't mean, like, that means something differently there than it does here. Because they can call a vote randomly. It's not every 4 years for the prime minister to be reelected.
Yeah, I mean, look how many times they had elections a couple years ago.
Right. And
like
so
4 different times in 1 year.
When we say a new government, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Which could mean Benjamin Netanyahu is no longer the prime minister of Israel.
It could mean that.
And that would have to happen. That him not being the prime minister wouldn't have to happen, but a new government, which could be led by him or someone else, would have to be open to negotiation.
Yeah, and I don't know what that would look like either. I mean, we just don't have any clue right now because, for one thing, the article didn't go into things like that. But when you think of these things, you see that can cause a lot of turmoil too. And so we'll just have to wait. But they just had a huge protest the other day. As a matter of fact, it shut down the Jerusalem Prophecy College last Thursday. I didn't get to teach at the college because they couldn't get to the college because of the protest, because everything was shut down. And it was all over the Palestinian conflict. So, we'll have to wait and see how that happens. Anytime there's transition and change, there's going to be growing pains and there's going to be problems. So you're not ever going to make everybody happy. We know that from experience. So, yeah, that's going to be a stickler. The Palestinians would also need international political reform. So that means got to get rid of Hamas. They have to be out of the way. So that's another stickler. That's something that they've talked about, and everybody seems to agree on this. Even some of the Palestinian people now agree that Hamas needs to go.
Oh, so they can get rid of Hamas and maybe just do Muslim Brotherhood now?
Or, maybe Qatar and Turkey can help.
Why not? That's how it works.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait. We'll have to see how that plays out. A lot of these things are unanswered questions right now, but it's very important to understand it.
Sure. So. Jordan and Egypt would have to show more flexibility. Flexibility on what?
Flexibility on allowing the Palestinian people to be part of this. Because remember, Egypt has put up a wall that looks like they're getting ready for the zombie apocalypse. That thing is like, I don't know how tall that thing is, but it's got barbed wire all over it and everything just to keep the Palestinian refugees from fleeing into Egypt.
Right.
So they would have to play ball with this and be more flexible about this situation, which if they're receiving compensation in their countries for it and they're going to be part of this deal where they're going to get prosperity for peace, then I would see them wanting to jump on board with this. So that's what they're talking about.
All right. And the Gulf states and the global community would need to offer support.
Yes.
So similar situation, basically. Somebody's going to have to help pay for this. Some people are going to have to sign off on it.
Yeah.
For everyone to be on board. And then the U.S. would need to take the lead in pushing the plan, which doesn't seem like a problem right now because we're pretty involved already, and Trump's happy to take the lead and push plans across if they make sense to him, at least.
Exactly.
Some would argue they don't make sense for America or whatever, but we're not trying to debate that. We're not suggesting one way or the other. I'm just saying for him, if it makes sense, he's going to help push it.
Yeah. And really, I mean, when you think about how it has to go, this has to be a change that's going to bring industry into that area if they're going to pipe money into there and help turn it into the Riviera of the Mediterranean. I mean, to be able to do that, it's going to take all these Gulf nations saying, yes, we're buying into this idea. And it's going to be like a corporation. So that's why I think the U.S. is going to be able to lead the charge, because that's the way Trump's running the government, is like a corporation, like a businessman. And it's the same thing that he's doing here, and it seems like the proposal could work. So now the article itself broke it down into why it might work. And so this is why, what we were just talking about. The approach fits what Donald Trump's style is, this bold, unconventional deal. It's not perfect. It's got some things that are going to have to be worked out, Vince, but it could be a practical compromise for everybody involved that everybody could say we can see solving diplomatic problems here, political problems here, demographic problems here. So all that could really fit into this plan and help this region, because everybody's been looking for a solution. And though this may not be a perfect solution, and it may not be the peace agreement that we're looking for either, we don't know that yet. But it does seem like a very viable plan. So it's interesting and it's powerful to see the pieces begin to fall into place and see these nations, especially when we talked about earlier that Jordan is one of those nations that it says will not come under the influence of the Antichrist. Now, Egypt will, but Jordan will not. So it's kind of interesting. Israel's going to be sandwiched right there. Of course, Israel's not going to take it because that's why the war happens. So Egypt is going to fall under the Antichrist. Jordan isn't. So it's interesting. It gives you a perspective of what they're surrounded by.
So just to clarify loud and clear one more time, this is not the plan that gets us to the beginning of the final 7 years.
Not yet, it's not.
And the final 7 years has not started.
Right.
And we don't know who the Antichrist is.
Not yet.
And Donald Trump's not the Antichrist because we don't know who he is, so that's clear. And the rapture's not going to happen in any second.
Right.
What else can I throw in there? No, I didn't mean to go down that bunny trail.
And the tribulation hasn't started yet.
There we go. So what is the prophetic perspective then on this confederation if it's not that the final 7 years could begin?
Well, the whole thing is that this could fit into that puzzle. This could be part of that peace plan. We've got the many people involved. Once again, many nations are involved in this. You've got players that weren't completely involved before that are now saying, look, we're going to step up and take responsibility and allow the Palestinian people to be governed kind of by Jordan too. They're going to be self-governed, but at the same time, it's going to be like having Big Brother watch over their shoulder to kind of keep track of what is happening, make sure the country is legit, that it's not being run by Hamas, but it's being run by people who are elected into a government by the people. And so this is a promising aspect of a direction that could be taken to lead us into an agreement. And here's the other thing, Vince, that why this is kind of a big deal right now is even though this might not be what seals the deal or brings the Palestinians to the table. The other thing that we're probably not going to get to a lot today is that we know that Saudi Arabia is coming to the White House on the 18th, I think, of this month. That Saudi Arabia, there was an article today, came out of Jerusalem Post, that Saudi Arabia has now opened channels directly with Israel. They weren't doing that before, and because of what they were saying was going on in Gaza, they weren't even sure that they were going to sign on to the peace deal. Well, now they're talking one-on-one with Israel. So the two nations are actually talking. That's a huge deal because Saudi Arabia is very powerful within the Muslim world, and Saudi Arabia is one of the countries that Trump has always wanted to bring into this because he felt like they could persuade the Palestinian government to sign on to the Abraham Accord, the peace agreement. So pieces of the puzzle are starting to fit here. You're starting to see these many nations that are coming together that are doing this, and they're recognizing that there's a problem there and that it's got to be a solution. There has to be something done. Now, here's something that I'm just proposing. I'm not saying this is going to happen. We know that the Sixth Trumpet War is coming, right? So we know that there's going to be this catastrophic war that's going to kill 1/3 of mankind. Now, let's say that a deal like this goes through and we see that peace agreement. We also know, we heard earlier this week, that Iran is moving weapons into Iraq to the militants in Iraq for a October 7th type of invasion into the West Bank, right? So we know that that is a possibility as well, that something like that could happen. Now, if they were to think, because remember, October 7th happened because they thought Saudi Arabia was going to sign on to this agreement back then, and that Israel was going to get the right to build their temple and everything else. If all that comes into play into this, because there's still those 5 things that kind of have to fall into place. Don't kind of have to. They have to fall into place for it to be what we're looking for. So very specifically, they have to be. So if that were to happen, the possibility that Iran could launch a war, because they're still going after, they said yesterday in articles that they're still going after nuclear-powered weapons. And so they could decide that they're going to start that war to keep this peace agreement from happening and to keep a temple from being built on that Temple Mount.
Similar to how Hamas attacked to stop the red heifers, and of course there were other reasons as well, but they mentioned that specifically, that they didn't want Israel to gain access to the Temple Mount with the red heifers that were there in Shiloh.
Right.
Iran could intercept or try to intervene in that way as well.
Because they were a big part of what happened on October 7th anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're using militants from Iraq to arm them and get them ready to attack in a similar style, a surprise attack. So Israel found out about it, but, you know, I mean, even though you know about something coming, can you stop it? You know, I don't know.
Has the Pope weighed in on this yet?
I have not seen anything where the Pope's weighed in on it, but who knows? This is one of those things that I know when, on the surface, maybe to some people it doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you look at all the pieces of it, you start going, okay, I see it, I can see it happening. So we're going to keep our eye on this and see what it turns into. At the same time, watch Saudi Arabia, see what they do. Kazakhstan, I think I said it wrong, but they just said that they were probably getting ready to sign on to the peace agreement. So there are things happening that, pieces of the puzzle are falling into place. There's the music. Wow.
It is the end of the show, Doug. It has come so fast yet again. Don't forget, you can go to watch.osn.tv and endtime.com. There's thousands of hours of content available for you there. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for Open Line Friday.